Zhiyun has been feeling the heat from DJI in recent years, but in the last few months they've come back fighting. We have the Smooth 5, the Crane M3, the Crane M2S, and now Zhiyun have just released the Smooth Q4. This gimbal is a direct competitor to the DJI OM5 with a pretty much identical extending handle. So how do they compare overall? The first gimbal I ever bought was the Smooth Q. The next two versions, the Smooth Q2 and the Q3, I found them to be less impressive. But as Robert the Bruce once said, if at first you don't succeed, copy DJI. Just kidding. In fact, I don't think DJI were the first ones to add an extending handle anyway. Well, proof is in the Zhiyun, so let's have a taste. As soon as I took it out of the case, I was impressed. I immediately had a good feeling about this gimbal. This is a foldable gimbal, but I think it folds up better and smaller than the previous version, the Smooth Q3. It's definitely a more portable shape. Compared to the OM5, it's not quite as nice to look at in my opinion. The OM5 has these sleek curves and even little bits of shiny chrome. The Smooth Q4 looks nice too, just not quite as pleasing to the eye. In terms of practicality, the Zhiyun folds up better. The OM5 has this locking mechanism, but it doesn't lock too securely in place, so it can slide around. And when you try to unfold it, this part seems to just slide around, so you have to hold it in place as you unfold it. Apart from that, the OM5 fits together nicely and folds up slightly smaller. One innovation for the Smooth Q4 is the smartphone clamp, which opens out like petals of a flower. My iPhone 12 Pro Max fits in easily with about 1.5 centimeters to spare. The teeth of the clamp fit nicely over the square edges of the phone as well. So when you mount the phone, you want the metal fill-like connectors to be at the top. With just a phone, it balances very easily. There's a trigger which is flush against the handle, even more so than the OM5. This means it is slightly harder to find, but it's no real issue. Power on and it snaps into action. First impressions? Motors seem smooth and powerful for a small gimbal. Switching between portrait and landscape is easy, and again, it really has a snap to it. To select mode on the Smooth Q4, like with most other Zhiyun gimbals, there is a button on the handle and these indicator lights. They're the four regular modes that we're used to: pan follow, locked follow, and point of view. If you actually want to learn more about gimbal modes, how they work, and when to use them, check out my full guide to smartphone gimbals. And I also have a downloadable ebook on smartphone gimbals for members on Patreon. When in point of view mode, one more tap takes you into vortex mode. You'll know because the indicator light starts flashing. In vortex mode, push up and down on the control stick to rotate the camera for a spin shot. Because of the fold-up design, you cannot get a full 360-degree rotation like you can on bigger gimbals, but it's still enough to get a fun spin shot. In vortex mode, press again to return to pan follow mode. A double tap takes the gimbal back one mode, so if you're in follow mode, for example, it will go to locked mode. Press and hold the trigger to access go mode, and this makes the gimbal react faster to your movements if you're filming sport or some kind of fast action that you need to follow. And one last tip, if you long press the mode button, it goes into standby and all the indicator lights switch on. Long press again to get out of standby. The OM5 has a slider at the side of the handle to control zoom, but the Smooth Q4 has a wheel which you can just roll up and down. In the ZY Cami app, we can adjust the zoom speed as well. Now, I wouldn't use this zoom wheel personally, but you might. And there is a little bit of an issue. With the DJI OM5, you press up the slider and it keeps zooming until you stop. But with the Smooth Q4, you have to keep rolling the wheel. If you stop rolling it, then it stops zooming. To keep zooming in, you have to keep rolling away like this, which isn't going to be easy if you're trying to get a shot at the same time. As well with the OM5, a tap on the zoom slider switches you between lenses. Or if you zoom in a little and just want to reset the default button, a simple tap on the slider does the job. But with the Smooth Q4, it's pretty tricky to get back to the 1.0x, which is where the main camera is, so you have to use the screen. Both have control sticks which you can use to adjust pan and tilt. So I noticed that the OM5 did not have a touch-sensitive control stick, whereas the older OM4 did. But what about the Smooth Q4? If the control stick is touch sensitive, it means you can make the camera pan faster or slower depending on the shot that you want. If you press the stick very gently, you can get it to pan slowly. It's pretty sensitive, so it does take a little bit of practice. As usual, double tap on the trigger button to recenter the phone. Like with the OM5, the Smooth Q4 does have a limited tilt movement. And this is because of the fold-up design. In pan-follow mode, for example, the tilt axis is locked, but only to a limited degree. If I keep tilting, eventually it has to follow. So again, like the OM gimbals, to shoot a lifting crane-style shot, you need to use a sideways motion. So it's just a small thing, but the OM gimbals all have this port for attaching a counterweight. If you want to use a smartphone with a lens mounted, a counterweight can help, but the Smooth Q4, like other Zhiyun gimbals, does not have that. Compared to the OM5, I found the Smooth Q4's motors are nice and strong, but they also seem to have more of a snap to them. So when you stop moving, the camera doesn't drift to a stop as it does with the OM5, at least not as much. Now, I don't see this as wrong or right, because I use the OM5's movement to ease out of a shot, especially if you're trying to shoot something slow and graceful. The Smooth Q4 just stops quicker, which you might prefer. It's only a subtle thing again, but I did see some people commenting that their OM5 kept drifting even after they stopped moving. So my advice is to stop early and then let the gimbal ease into position on the final frame. But with the Smooth Q4, it eases into that final frame just a bit faster. Of course, both gimbals have Go or Sport mode in the DJI if you want to remove this drift completely. Both Smooth Q4 and the OM5 have these extending handles, which are roughly the same length on both gimbals. They also both have an adjusting head, which allows you to change the angle. So this is useful for using it like a selfie stick if you're going to be filming yourself or taking photos of yourself. But if you look closely, you will see a difference. And this is something that I noticed with the OM5 when I first used it. The bottom pan motor sits at an angle, so when it rotates, it's not rotating level with the horizon, and so the side motors have to kind of adjust. For that reason, I usually lift it out slightly and then adjust this motor so it's level with the horizon. The Smooth Q4, on the other hand, isn't actually like that. The motor is designed to be level, which to me seems like a smarter design. The combo version of the Smooth Q4 comes with a detachable fill light. This is exactly like the Smooth 5. It's magnetic and it sits on top. And one difference is that as soon as you place it on, it switches on immediately. To change the level of brightness, you can just press in the wheel, the zoom wheel, and like a button. You can place the light facing forwards or backwards, and it's very easy just to switch it around. There's also the magnetic filters like you get with the other Zhiyun gimbals, which you can place over the light, and they have 4 different colors. From what I've learned about maximum payloads on gimbals, they're really just to give you a rough idea. DJI says the OM5 has a maximum payload of 230 grams plus or minus 60 grams, so that's somewhere between 170 grams and 290 grams. Meanwhile, Zhiyun says the Smooth Q4 has a maximum of 280 grams, so they're basically the same. With my iPhone 12 Pro Max, it works fine. I also tried adding a moment case and lens, which in total comes to 308 grams. Again, the gimbal seems to handle this weight without any real issue. The only problem occurs when I balance the phone and switch it on. The bottom of the phone gets stuck when it tries to switch between landscape and portrait because of the size of the phone. But here's a way to get around that. Balance the phone as normal, then just tip the handle at an angle and now turn on. Triple tap the trigger to switch to landscape, and now you're ready to get filming. There's a few places where the OM5 is the better gimbal. There's the zoom slider, the overall look, I would say, and a more compact design when folded. And there's also the counterweight port. I also found that the OM5 performed better than the Smooth Q4 when shooting a motion time-lapse. Both gimbals allow you to program a movement during a time-lapse shot, which is something that you can only do with a gimbal. And overall, the OM5 performs this task better. And recently I also found similar issues with the Smooth 5, so I guess this is a problem with the ZY Cami app. However, Zhiyun says this is something they're working on and should be fixed in future updates. If I had to choose between them, the Smooth Q4 probably just about takes my vote, although there's not too much between them. The Q4 motors seem more solid, stable, and benefit from the better layout. I just think you'll get smoother footage with this gimbal. Having the modes on the handle makes changing modes easier than the OM5, as well as being able to see immediately which mode you're in. And the clamp on the Smooth Q4 is really nice to use. With the OM4 and 5 magnetic clamps, can be a bit of a struggle getting a phone mounted. As well, when I have the case on my phone, it accommodates that fine, no problem. Whereas with the OM5 clamp, it does feel like we're stretching it to its limit. That said, I found both gimbals could handle this big phone with case and lens, but I don't think you could add too much more, like filters for example. And now if you opt for the combo version, you get this nice little solid case as well. I'm so thrilled that we had a record number of people joining us on Patreon last month. And it's really great to know that people are enjoying the extra stuff that we've got there. So if you did find this video useful, please, let me know by giving it a thumbs up. And I'll see you in the next video.